All right, and we are live here on the Yishai Fleischer Show, broadcasting to the world from Judea, and we're doing it via the awesome power of the internet right now. And I am very glad and thankful to have Rabbi Mike Foy, Rav Mike, back on the show with us. Rav Mike, shalom and welcome.
Been so long that you've forgotten my name, apparently.
Well, it's
Nah, I'm
very
just
good to
kidding.
have you back, and I'm very excited to have you here on the show. And let's hope both of you and I both are doing our internet best to communicate. And I'm excited. And we'll just have to hope that the light of Israel will overcome all the challenges of the wires and the wireless out there.
Man.
Rav Mike, I've had a very long day today already. Today was the 20th of Cheshvan, and that means it was my father's yortzeit. So that means his day of passing. And this year was the 20th. And I know that you also have a coming up day of passing of your father, and also 20th. Is that correct?
No, it's going to be
Is that right?
23rd,
No,
actually. 20, I take
23rd.
it back.
Okay.
23rd, yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. So that's a lot of years, and so I started the day with gathering a lot of friends and family to the Mount of Resting, Har Menuchot, here in Jerusalem, and we had a great event for my dad's yortzeit, and we did the Psalms, we did the Kel Malei Rachamim prayer, and then we told stories. And when we finished telling stories, we went over to the cars and we took out lots of yummy salads and fun things that my mom and my wife and friends of the family, the rest of the family, and my sister and my sister-in-law made. And then we took out one bottle of whiskey and one bottle of vodka, and we had a real good old time of doing it. I have to say, I learned, if I learned anything from the Irish, it's to do a little bit of a wake when it comes to a yurt site, and
Well, that
that's
sounds
the way
more
we
like
do
a
it. We do it.
sounds more like a tailgate party than a wake.
Yeah, it's like a tailgate party. It's like a cemetery tailgate party. But this year was the 20th. And, I gave a big talk about last night. It came to me what I would talk about every year. I pick a theme, and this year I talked about dichotomies in my dad's personality and my father's
Hmm.
personality, which was really fun.
For
From him,
example,
like, well, I gave an example that on the one hand, he always reread and read a certain book. He had a certain Russian book that would read over and over again. So he was like really very locked into this book. But on the other hand, he had a tremendous breadth of knowledge in Tanakh, and just knew all the texts of the Tanakh and would quiz me on it. And I would fail. And he just knew well. So that was just an example of, on the one hand, he like kind of had a provincial like lock into a certain book that he kind of gave him like, nachas, what's that called in English? Like, it gave him pleasure to read that
the
book over and
pleasure
over
what he
again.
needed, yeah.
Right. But on the other hand, he had other great breadths of knowledge, other things like that. But it was really fun, and that was special. Then I went to the Knesset, and this has been weeks in the making. The GPO, the government press office, had a summit for foreign religious press.
What does that mean,
And in
foreign
that
religious
summit,
press?
yes, foreign observant religious press, i.e. Christian, et cetera, but other religions as well. And they were in a 4-day summit for the GPO, Government Press Office, and they really asked me to help them hear from Itamar Ben-Gvir. And I have been organizing this for weeks and weeks. And this included many layers. And then finally, on the day of, Knesset member Ben-Gvir was stuck inside of a committee meeting of a great import of a topic that's very close to him, which is broadening the responsibilities and the powers of the Minister of Public Security, or now we call it National Security. And so this was his law that he had brought up, and his basically a committee that was very important to him. And to pull him out of that committee was hard. And so I'd pretty much given up hope, and the GPO was pressuring me, and everybody was pressuring me, and there was 150 of these journalists. But finally, he came to that plenum, to that the Jerusalem room, conference room, and he let him have it. He really, I mean to say, he belted it out, and people were just ecstatic and found them to be charismatic. And yours truly did the simultaneous translation for it. So it was really a lot of fun, but a little bit of a pressury day. Then I went into that committee and I listened to some of I happened to hear like 3 or 4 speakers who were against the law that Itamar Ben-Gvir is pushing. In any case, it was quite an exciting day. Then I got home, ate a little soup, and got on the show with you. So it's been a very long and exciting day. So thank you very much for joining me. What about you? You having some exciting times out there?
I'm just trying to stay in the daily grind. I mean, I feel like we had the holidays, and then I had my son's bar mitzvah, and then like I hadn't had any stretch of real focus for quite some time. So I was being productive on a project that you and I are working on, trying to keep up with the counseling. I had a couple clients today. I feel like my whole day was bound up with story, which is not unusual for me. In various ways, in the personal, on the national, on the professional level. It was a good day. It's a good day.
I know that you do a lot of work also through spiritual counseling, and I happen to know a bunch of people who need that right now. And you said something to me the other day, which I think was very powerful to me. You said it to me off the cuff, but you said to me that a lot of people do so much pain and so much hurt and damage to one another in marital situations. I guess because I know some people right now going through stuff, I felt that the how much pain we inflict on one another. And what's your basic, I know what my basic advice is now, but what's your like, if you had to give a catch-all, your basic advice for the average
I mean,
marital strife people?
Aside from seek help, because it's important to always say that, because there's still a tremendous stigma against seeking help in as complicated a thing as marriage, despite the fact of the old cliche that if your car broke down or God forbid your child was sick, you'd go to the expert to help you fix the situation. But somehow when people are struggling within marriage, when I say that the amount of pain that people can cause within marriage, a lot of it has to do because it's the most personal side of life. And it's not intentional. It's not always malice. That happens too, God forbid. But it's just simply what happens when we feel vulnerable and threatened and frightened and sad and etc. So I would say the number one piece of advice I would give is take a deep breath and notice whether you're being the person that you actually want to be right now.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of focusing on the other person, take a deep breath and ask yourself, is this the person I really want to be? And before you start deciding whose fault that is or what, just ask that simple question. If the answer is no, then you start to take responsibility for changing things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Quite. I know exactly what you mean. And I think what you're talking about, if I would bring it down to like real examples, probably like if you're yelling at your kids or your spouse, like, is that the person that you want to be? And if you're short with somebody, like, because you came home and you're tired, but you've given everybody else a cheery face, are you going to give your family a cheery face? I know that happens to me. Sometimes I'm like, cheery face, nice, nice, nice. And I come home and I'm so exhausted that I'm already out of steam for my own family. That's of course a big mistake.
Also, people are lonely. People get sad. People struggle to communicate. And it's not always this sort of outward, angry, sharp edges. Sometimes there's a very inward gap between who we are and who we want to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think on the positive side, one of the things that I want to tell everybody out there is like, try to really appreciate your spouse. See that your spouse is like working hard to keep you happy and well, and like be just like so appreciative. And I guess for me, I use a very low, I would say it's a kind of very low grade, easy way to get myself back on track is I just look at the hardships of people in all kinds of situations. I just had a friend of mine, his brother just died from cancer in 2 months after finding out, and he's a young man and has young children. And I'm just like, if you just take a look for a second about what the not so impossible worst case scenario could be, and just be like, wow, like I should be so thankful for every minute of my life and every minute I get to spend with this family, with these good people who love me, who I love back. And I don't want to like record anything negative. I want to like really, enjoy this while this beautiful time is here, and just not miss a second of it, and certainly not spoil it by pouring even a tiniest bit of poison into it.
Yeah, gaining and maintaining that perspective is very important. I think what you're saying, and whether it's the sort of extreme sense of mortality that you're speaking about, or just the small sense of like, wow, like I feel like I'm a bad parent, but my kids all eat 3 meals today. They're wearing decent clothes. They got a roof over their heads, and they went to school this morning. Those are enormous victories, and we're much quicker to punish ourselves for our failures than we are to celebrate our victories. You know, the other thing I would add to that is always look for the places where you can gain and maintain agency. A lot of the times we feel helpless in a
Gain and
relationship.
maintain what?
Agency. What
Hmm.
is it I can do? If I want more love in my life, I can give and do things to my spouse. It's a secret that people don't realize. We don't feel love toward others when they do for us. We feel the deepest love toward others when we do for them. If you want to
Hmm.
feel more love in your life, go out of your way to do things for the people for whom you want to feel that love. So there's all kinds of methods, but the number one thing is they just realize you have way more agency than you realize in your life, and you avoid the type of thinking and the behavior patterns that rob you of the ability to act and the belief that your actions are sort of are effective. But I mean, we could go on
Amen.
forever on this one. I'll start
No, it's
charging you at
it's
the
it's
half hour mark.
important. Yeah, that's right. It's important. It's important for all of us, and here on the Ishai Fleischer Show, we like to provide a little bit of comfort and advice to get out there
Listen,
because if the
it's a
because
scary world out there, man.
yeah,
It's a
and
scary
if
world out
people
there.
if there's more happy marriages, more happy families, the world just has a better energy out there, and there's more kids growing up in a good way, and then there's more kids who know how to do it better in the next generation, and the world becomes a better place.
This, by the way, is
Moshe
one of the
Herman,
things that. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say this is one of the things that we often miss, which is so crucial about the depth of commitment to Torah that can really gel a community together. Right? It's trite to talk about family values today, but nonetheless, we have to appreciate the fact that the family has always been the building block of human culture, of society, holds the context for the psycho-emotional development that produces the types of people who are empowered to build a future we actually want to live in. So therefore, the number one thing you can invest in is in your own family. It's actually a big challenge for a lot of professional men who feel like, oh, I'm doing big things. I'm trying to make real changes, and that may be true, maybe absolutely true. But sometimes there's an illusion that what happens at home is not as important. Whereas, and even by the way, we say, oh, but it's on such a small scale. You never know, because your family is the sort of blessing that you cast forward into the future, right? The more that you put into it, generations down the line. I mean, just think, we're getting toward the end of the book of Breshit. It's basically a book on the struggles to be a functional family, if I wanted to be kind.
Right.
And here we are, literally millennia later, learning from and growing from in the millions, just the Jews. We start adding Christians and Muslims, the other Abrahamic faiths, billions of people, and it puts the power of a family in a different light.
Yeah, and one way that we could tie in the two themes that I wanted to talk about today, which is the Torah portion and Hanukkah, is really family, because Hanukkah is also very much a family story. It's a family story. But before we get to that, let's just say hi to all the friends that are out there. First, my man Moshe says, "Sup, bro?" And I say right back to you, Shalom, my brother Moshe, who gets out the
Shalom,
show to
shalom.
the world, and said, "Thank you very much." We have Lou, who is helping us produce the show. He says, "Shalom, Yishai and Rav Mike." He says, "Looking and sounding great."
So
Thank you very
apparently
much.
we're overcoming our connectivity issues.
Somewhat. And then we get cordial saludo desde Cartagena, Colombia, which I think it means a cordial salute from the great state
Greeting.
of
Yeah,
Colombia.
yes.
That's really,
Exactly.
so
That's it.
that makes me feel good. That's good. Colombia is great. And and I just want to say hello to Colombia and to the good people of South America. I have never been to South America. I have been as far as Cabo San Lucas, but I've never been any farther down there in that great continent. So
Now they are.
maybe one day. Dawn Alvarado says, in marriages, we have to pray every time you get mad at your partner because you need the patience to understand them. You get mad because they don't understand you, but you also have to understand them first.
It's
Um,
very good advice. I agree, Don. Prayer is an enormous tool for putting that space between emotion and action that opens up possibilities other than just simply being reactive. I agree.
Good. And Sharad says, love from India. Woo!
Right back at you.
There's a big country. Speaking of 1 billion people, right there. Just
That's
India.
right.
Wow.
God bless him.
That's powerful. I wonder
is.
what it feels like to be an Indian. I guess many times I've given speeches and I talk about stuff and I've given I remember I once gave a speech to SIPA, which is Columbia's International School of Politics, and a lot of them are on the left side of the political map, and the whole room was like this. They were like this. No, they were just nodding. No, that's not. They were. What's that called? This motion is called a what?
Shaking your head.
Shaking your head. They were shaking their head. No, but then there was 2 guys in the back, and they were like shaking. They were nodding their head yes, and it was 2 Indian fellas there who understood the plight of Israel and just understood it better. So shalom and love to India from Israel. Nika says, I hope my daddy, I would like my daddy to listen to topics like this. He needs to be reminded. Amen. Bless your father. And Kathy says, thank you, Yishai Fleischer, for sharing some intimate and special memories of your late father. With pro-Israel page currently on the blink, we apparently have unknown squatters that have taken over Facebook profile page and ultimately the pro-Israel page. So folks are fighting for space on the internet as well. So good luck with that, Kathy, and I hope you guys get back. And we have a shalom from the Philippines, from Nika. That's so cool. Never been to the Philippines. And we also have Dawn saying, watching from California, US. So the reason I love to read these things is because I find it so exciting to be able to talk to the world. And you guys are the world. You are the children. All right. We are the children. That's right. That's right.
And, I saw it coming. Yeah. We're children of the 80s. There's nothing to be done.
That's right. And but it just really is really fun to be able to talk to the world. And God bless you guys out there. And I feel that it is a fulfillment of, of biblical prophecy to be able to shine a light to the world. And that's being a light unto the nations from Israel. So that's really special. And thank you, all of you from all those nations, for fulfilling that biblical prophecy of allowing yourself to see the light from Israel. And Baruch Hashem, blessed are you. Blessed you guys out there. And I bless all of the people who write to me all the time saying they're part of the international Torah community around the world. And I really do continue to bless you. And so does Rav Mike, I'm sure. All right. Now, speaking of dysfunctional families, we have here, we have a Torah portion called Vayeshev, and it is found. Oh, we got Kor says shalom he's watching from the Netherlands. So it's really big. That's really great. We have here we're in the book of Genesis, and in the book of Genesis we have chapter 37. We're dealing with that's it. We dealt with Abraham, we dealt with Isaac, and we're dealing still with Jacob, but this is now Jacob's children. We're dealing with the 12 tribes, and it should be like a eureka moment, like yay, 12 tribes. We're ready to rock. Let's go. We're Israel. But sadly, 12 tribes, really from the inception that we meet them, are at each other's throats, and they are fighting one another. And even Joseph is, in the first verses that we meet him, he's already speaking bad about some of his brothers, and later brothers are jealous of him. And this causes strife. Then on top of the strife that is already felt, there's the advent of the first set of dreams. I think that the Joseph story has 3 sets of 2 dreams altogether. If you count Pharaoh's dreams, you count the cook and the butler, and you count Joseph's dreams.
Gotcha.
Right? Am I right here? Yeah. So
So before we jump to the dreams, can I go back to what you said about the brothers?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, did you lose me there? You hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you good.
Okay. Because we're a little choppy in here. We're not entirely overcoming. But when I heard you say there's sort of this ought to be a eureka moment. Oh, 12 tribes, we've arrived. But then it sort of leads to, conflict and division, and not just conflict and division, but they literally beat their brother up and throw him in the pit. And like you pointed out, it seems like he a little bit deserved it, at least on the face of things, right? Not a simple story. Fair, right? But I think it's crucial to remember that the tribes play a critical role in the Israelite mission in the world. Because while we are the people of one God, one Torah, one land, you know, it's one God, one Torah, one land, 12 tribes. Why? Because within that unity is a recognition of the complexity of humanity. And therefore, it's the differences between the tribes which is crucial to maintain. Now, those differences in their raw form mean conflict, because that's just the way it is. I mean, I've got 5 kids, and they're all very different, and their differences are sometimes, beautiful and give the plentiful sense of diversity of thought and opinion within our family. But most of the times, they're at each other's throats. But the
Right.
real strength of a world that can give full expression to the divine will can't do it in unity. Only God can give expression to God in unity. We give expression to God through a united particularity, right? This brother, that brother. There's a whole process of tikkunim, so the refinements and the fixings that have to happen here. We see the journey, but I think it's important to note that the conflicts are essential, not incidental. They're a crucial part of the process, because it's the distinctions and maintaining distinctions that makes Hebrew universalism unique.
Okay. But does it have to come through selling each other to slavery, or can it be through a nice discourse or a pool game or something like that? Does it have to be like,
I
or
no,
are
I
you
think it has to be
saying,
brutal. I think
that things had to get flushed out? Things have to get, sometimes even if they're not pretty, I think it's common belief that there's an excessiveness here. There's a mistake here. There's a sin that happens here that has to get rectified later
yeah,
on down the line.
yeah, but that's consistent with the entire Bible. Remember, the Bible's not presenting some ideal. It's not philosophy. It's not some Greek, drama which is meant to exemplify ideas. This is real life. And whether it had to be this way or not is a question only God can answer. Humanity answers the question, this is the way it is. Look at our current return today. Well, if we're really the Jews, we're really the chosen people, this is really our land, shouldn't we have just sort of come in and the whole world would have known it, and we would have been able to hold our spiritual stature and straighten our backs after 2,000 years of it? Yeah. You know what the reality is? That's not how life works.
Right.
Life works through repair, through hard work, through determination. And it's, by the way, real integrity is displayed by overcoming adversity and repeated failure, not by some I know who I am, I know what I need to do in a smooth
Well,
process.
that's a great point. I mean, I think that's a really great point, and I think that's a point that I think I'd like to stress that a little bit, what you're saying, because I get a lot of times in conversation with people who are fed up. I see that a lot, of various kinds. By the
Yeah.
way, I don't mean to go into this topic, but a lot of the corona, COVID virus, the folks who kind of think that, the government, played one on them and experimented on them and that kind of stuff, and are very disappointed in the world. I had a few friends like that who are just like, they've given up on the world,
Mhm.
and they're completely freaked out. They're freaked out, and it's the smarter, the more the far harder they fall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, maybe you're not wrong about anything, but like your attitude, you've actually become sick in your despondency and disappointment in the world. The rabbit hole that you've gone down has really just suck you down, and you can't come back up. And I've seen that also in right wing people and left wing people and different, whatever it is. And I just say to people, like, and what I got from what you said is, read the Joseph story. You could totally just be like, I don't want to deal with this book of horrors, of these infighting. And the point of the book is, no, the story keeps going and you
That's the point of
overcome.
It's the point of Joseph's life too.
Right. That's what I'm
Meaning he
understanding.
But personally, meaning the point of the book in general, but him personally, there he is when Eshet Potiphar, when like this beautiful seductress who has all kinds of power could change his life forever, right? Says, "Come, lie with me. Do what Egyptians do. Nobody's gonna criticize you unless you be weak and get caught." But together and all these promises, you know what? Why not? Here he is. His own brothers beat him up and threw him in the pit. There's an
Right.
argument to be made that maybe his father kind of knew this was coming and set him up, right? He's gone. Nobody's thinking about him. Nobody's looking for him. Why? Why not? But in the end of the day, he decides, and this is what I meant before about agency. He decides that's not who I am.
Right.
And in the same way that your friends who give into that despair and go down the rabbit hole, or on the left or right, I think the reason is because to maintain agency is frightening. There's something very comforting about going down the rabbit hole that this is being done to me, and the world is out of control. And when the world's out of control, I can't actually try to take responsibility for controlling it, or maybe even, God forbid, myself. And the burden of agency and freedom is lifted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
There's a truth in what you're saying. There's a truth in that. And on the flip side, there's also the type of people who are always saying like, wow, only Messiah could fix this. Only Mashiach could fix this business.
it's another abdication of agency.
Right. It's like, don't say that, don't say that. That's you don't, I'll just flush out what abdication of agency means. It just means I don't want to take care of it. I can't deal with it. It's too icky. It's too messy. I'm just walking away from it.
Yep.
I myself.
You know what Shlomo used to say?
What?
He used to say that if you're going to believe in Mashiach, you have to believe in Am Yisrael, because you believe that Am Yisrael has the ability to bring Mashiach.
Yeah, it's
belief in
interesting
Mashiach is a belief in Am Yisrael.
Because for me, one of the people that I learned that things can be bettered was an Italian. It wasn't a Jew. It was an Italian mayor of New York City named Rudy Giuliani. And when I lived in New York City and close by, when I saw that town that had like gone Gotham could be brought out of that and turned into this like safe and vibrant place, I was like, I remember I was a kid. I must have been like 14. I was just like, wow. I was just like, no, I wasn't 14. I was 14 when I saw it bad. I guess I was 21 when I saw it, turning good. And I was just like, I'm telling you, Rav Mike, I remember being shocked. And I remember that I was like, wow, I now believe for the first time in the power of politics, in the power of leadership, in the power of, as Rabbi Nachman says, if you believe that things can be, wrecked and destroyed, believe that they can be bettered as well. Like I did not believe that until I saw it with my own eyes. And I was like, wow. And I always wanted to write a letter to Rudy Giuliani and tell him, you know what, man, it took an Italian for me to teach a Jew. And to teach a Jew and to teach me about Hanukkah.
I think he's having a little bit of a hard time right now. He might appreciate the letter.
Whatever, yeah, and whatever, whoever he is today, and I'm not getting into that, and that's not the issue.
No, there's an important piece in what you're saying is that you're familiar with the broken window theory, which was the social theory that they say was driving his behavior. It is the most Jewish attitude you could ever have. It's the belief that small, repeated actions which reflect a commitment to values are the only basis for transformation in the world. So they're like big visionary moves, maybe yes, maybe no,
right,
but small, consistent actions which are clearly expressive of my core values serve as a platform to change everything. Yeah.
Rav Mike, we're coming up to Hanukkah next week. I want you to know that there's a few holidays that get me inside, that cause me to just kind of tear up and to feel these feelings. And Hanukkah is one of them. I light those candles. I'm just like, first thing, Hanukkah is a type of political holiday, but the rabbis acquiesced to the Maccabees, request that their victory would be remembered for generations. And so that, I just it's all, if you study about the story of the Maccabees, the battles, it's all known. We know the battles. We know the battles that they fought. We know where, we know what, we know how. It's written out pretty well. It's written down in the book of Maccabees 1 and 2. It's written in Josephus and in other historical documents from back then. And the power of courage, and I guess the power of the opposite of despondency. I hope that my friends who are suffering from this despondent attitude will look closely at the Hanukkah lights and get inspired to just get back up and do and be part of action and be part of the time that God has given them the allotment to live in.
And I'm going to sharpen that because it's always very important to me to ask the question, my Hanukkah, right? That's what the Gemara asks. Like, what is Hanukkah? It's a unique question. There is no other Jewish holiday. The sages are like, what exactly is this? What do you mean, what is this? Like, either it says so explicitly in the Torah, or you're the sages. You tell me. Like, what are you asking for? Every year, as you mentioned, like yourself, my father, you also had Hanukkah lights in your Shiva house, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
not only that,
Yeah, you did.
my father loved Hanukkah, and he had special little like porcelain canisters of oil, these little jugs, and we lit them, and it was like a whole thing.
Yeah,
And yeah, we had
I
to light
remember.
those. We had to light those
Yeah.
days after he passed away. Certainly, yeah.
Like, what more powerful expression of the personal experience of light out of darkness could there really be more than Hanukkah candles in a Shiva house? It's just like, yeah, we're in darkness right now, but that doesn't in any way affect our belief in the light. I may be in darkness. Fine, that's just real. You got to be real. You got to be where they're at. But that doesn't mean you give up on your essential truth. So I give a class every year in my father's memory. I've been doing it for almost 20 years. I actually sent you the link there if you want to share it in the banner or something. People want to come. The Zoom link.
Where did you send it?
It's on Thursday. I put it in there's a chat that you and I have. It's private.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever noticed that. But anyway, it's on Thursday, 1 p.m. EDT or 8 p.m. on Israel time. But my point is that the piece that I would stress to our friends, to everyone on Hanukkah, is what the Rambam says. You know what the Rambam says? What we're celebrating? He says, "Chazer Malchut l'Yisrael yeter matayim shana," right? That Malchut, sovereignty, returned to Israel for more than 200 years. Now, here's the funny thing: if you count that up from the time the Maccabees won in, let's call it 164 before the Common Era, and you get a little bit more, he thinks up to the Churban, so it's literally like 230 years, but whatever. To call that Malchut Yisrael is a stretch. Herod is an interesting character. You and I have had some brief talks about Herod because of the work you're doing there in Hebron and the important role that he played in the Mara. But there's plenty of Rome in there. There's plenty of other things. It's hard to just call it Malchut Yisrael. But the Rambam meant what you just said. No, it's cultural sovereignty. It's sovereignty of consciousness. It's the recognition that in the end of the day, our achievement as a people comes when the physical world manifests our spiritual sovereignty. But our real sovereign space is in the neshama. It's in the soul, because that's the task that God sent us in the world to perfect through the body, right? We're not some sort of leave the world in order to find your purpose type people, where the spirit of the Maccabees can be reduced to the need for sovereignty over geography in order to fulfill theology. You got to hold the spiritual high ground in order to do your job.
Right, but it could go the other way as well, right? You could turn it into, and this is something I'm always wary of also, which you could spiritualize it totally and take away the embodied control over the land of Israel and push away foreign influences, etc.
But that's why the spirit of the Maccabees is sovereignty over geography.
Right.
Is crucial for theology. I mean, you can't have the cultural sovereignty without. No, yes, in exile you can, and it's an inner state, etc. But you're like a ghost. It's not real full sovereignty. Right. We're meant to act in the world.
Right.
So it's an exciting time. I just think that we live in a time where sovereignty is finally surfacing as what is appearing to more and more people the only logical path ahead. However you conceive it, because I think there's still a diversity.
I was at a committee meeting today in the Knesset, and I'm like, wow, we have formed a complex apparatus. The state apparatus is one, and we're like a New Jersey sized country.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just like, wow, this is a complex apparatus, this whole thing. And it's got a lot of let's call it checks and balances, but moving parts and different things. And it's like,
and some big personalities in there.
Yeah, big personalities, but also there's also already, a lot of divisions of labor, and there's a lot of money involved. The state has a lot of, and there's all kinds of. There was a judge in this committee meeting, and a representative of the police, and Knesset members,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
NGOs, and
These are real robust institutions.
all kinds of stuff. Let's just say hi to some of the folks that are out there and are saying hi. First thing from Nepal. Raja Bahai asks that we pray for him. He says he's diabetic. He's having some problems. So please pray for Raja. And we do. We do, Raja from Nepal. God bless you. May Hashem give you strength.
You that you have strength and healing.
That's right. My good buddy Steve Eisenberg says, Shalom, joining late. Greetings and blessings from South Florida.
I hope it's warm down there. Is Fort Lauderdale in South Florida?
It is. It is.
My daughter's there, and I'm praying for her that she should get some sun before she goes off the army in another week and a half when she comes home.
There's no name. What is it called? The Bubby Belt.
The Bubby Belt. Oh my goodness. As a guy who grew up in the Rust Belt, the Bubby Belt sounds much more appealing.
The Bubby Belt, but it's really not the Bubby Belt anymore. But now Arif, Asadkhil says all fake.
Meaning everything.
He's just like
he's a Buddhist.
Poo poo on you.
No,
I don't think he means that. I think he's saying. I don't know for sure what he means, but I think he's just saying you guys are all totally fake, which is a total. That's like a type of Amalekite type of comment. It's like, forget it. You're all there is no God. The whole thing is.
But unfortunately, as we know that this substitutes for discourse today. I had this experience just this morning. I posted a Ben Shapiro article that I didn't necessarily agree with all of it, but I think, like, as is usual, he's just got that sort of machine-like mind that can just lay out, like the whole picture, right? So it's like, wow, that's worth reading. And I saw the comments that I got back. I'd say 90% of the people didn't ever actually read the article.
Right.
They just like, no, he's a bad person. He's a bad person. Yeah. I can't believe you platform him. It's like,
and let's just say that's the Ben Shapiro article talking to Orthodox Jews and asking them about their acceptance of the LGBT plus Q plus, so the whole gay rights issue.
Where the only place he missed in that article is he didn't connect it to Hanukkah. He didn't. It was a miss that he didn't connect it to Hanukkah.
Yeah, no,
because it was a Hanukkah article par excellence.
Right. Absolutely. And you know what? Maybe that's worth tweeting like that. But I want to say, like,
you do it. If people listen to you, I ain't gonna get any traction out of it.
I by the way, sometimes I thought to myself, I thought to myself, wow, Western society is probably going to go right down like Roman society. Basically, there are some theories that Roman society went down. Right, but specifically, the Roman society went down because of their, homosexuality, super acceptance, and all that kind of stuff. And there's some theories that that's what caused, or the sexual. Let's call it this way: there's sexual licentiousness.
Yeah, I was going to say it's important to make a distinction because the issue there is not man loves man per se.
Right.
The issue there goes back to the family that we spoke about, which is that when sexual connection is kept within the context of procreation, excuse me if I sound biblical for a moment, right? The demands on character, the recognition of consequences and responsibility for decisions, the long-term commitments which serve as vessels for the pleasure and the complexity that we all experience when it comes to sort of like physical sexuality are crucial vessels, right? And I'm not even going to get into judging other people, which Ben didn't hesitate to do, and I appreciate the fact that he went all the way with his logic, right? Personally, I'm not even going to get into judging other people. My challenge is that it's fairly clear how this Torah presents these things, and if a person wants to be merciful and try to reframe the Torah for an individual in order to be able to conceive of themselves as right with God, I support that. But to actively undermine one of the fundamental stances of the Torah, which is that your core to God.
Your core what? I missed a word there.
I jumped. I said that your core identity is your relationship to God, and not your relationship to sexual desire.
Right.
That's just a mistake.
That's such a powerful phrase, what you just said. The core identity is your relationship to God, not your sexual desire.
Which is in no way to denigrate sexual desire or to underappreciate the challenges and the complexity and the power. But the Torah is pointing out to you, yes. And I think the Torah is very kind of pragmatic and gritty about that, in certain ways. And also the sages certainly knew, like you're pointing out, the sages weren't like ignoramuses of this question. Like you're pointing out, they developed in the Greco-Roman world. This was nothing new to them.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
Let's that's right. And
question.
these things are not new. These things are not new. You're right. The Greco-Roman, we are facing the Greco-Roman challenge. I just wanted to finish that thought that I had for you before, which is similar to what you're saying, but like I was like, there was an announcement by President Biden and stuff this week, and I thought to myself, okay, well, this will lead to the inevitable end of Western the supremacy of Western civilization, which I do not count Israel as a full member of. I count it as a partial member
Well,
of.
we need to create some space there.
Right. Like I think there is natural space there.
There's natural space, but since the beginning of the state, we've been trying to close that gap and really position ourselves.
But it depends who we are. You know what I mean? Who's we? You know what I mean?
Don't start that Jewish thing with me.
No, because I'll tell you why. Because I come from a Russian background, and you could see the Russia of today is very much like we are not part of Western civilization. These guys, they're going down. Not that you should like Putin, but I'm just saying like there's a part of me that's like I'm not that in the first place. And then this country, I think of it as a much more Sephardic country, and they're not like all day long talking about being part of Western civilization. They're not talking about that. So I think that there's plenty of ways of like from a very like natural, not massaged self-identity, which is like not so Western. So from the get-go, without even thinking it very deeply, there are some Hasbara folks that talk about us being Western and stuff like that, and we are also Mediterranean basin, which is many things, which is North Africa, which is Italy, which is Greece, which is France, which is, it has a lot of different flavors. And I wouldn't just like, stick us into Western civ exactly. We've been crossroads of civilizations always, and we are our own civilization, although inspired by many different peoples. Right.
Thank you for ending on that. That's what I was waiting for.
We are our own civilization. We have our own civilizational info, which fills our whole life. There's tons of it.
Numerically, we may not compete with the sort of classic grand civilizations, but culturally and certainly in our influence on human history, I will take second to none.
Right. So then I was thinking, well, there she goes. There goes that ship. It's springing a leak and it's going down. And then I must say something to you, which is also to bring in something very, very modern. There's a guy out there. There's always a guy out there that said that I think to myself, well, Western Civ still has a chance to pull it out. And it's, the new boss of Twitter. What's his face?
Elon Musk.
Musk is like, he's like, I'm just like, wow, this guy's fighting for classical liberal values of freedom of speech, which is a cornerstone of Western Civ, and also, pushing back on wokeness, etc. So there's still a chance. That's what I thought to myself. There's still a chance for them as well. Okay. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but there's something in my heart which said to me, like, there's still heroes that
you're breaking up badly.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm just saying there's still heroes that are coming out of those quarters.
Yeah, listen, it's important to remember that just because I glibly said that all empires have their day doesn't mean that they disappear necessarily. I think of the two different models as the Roman and the British, meaning Rome imploded. It was gone, right? It was like shocking, in fact, how quickly the Germanic tribes were able to dismantle the Roman Empire.
But that's after 1,000 years of rule, right?
Yeah, no, fair. I mean, they had a good ride. I'm not disparaging that. But Great Britain retreated, but maintained itself as a nation,
right?
And it could be that the sort of people like Elon Musk, what they're trying to reach for are the core values of the American nation, in order that whatever lies ahead, there will be a base for holding the nation together if the sort of global empire influence phase indeed passes.
Right. Right. You just reminded me that I remember that just around September 11th, soon after that horrible, jihadist fundamentalist Islam attack on America happened. I remember that soon afterwards, if I recall correctly, but at the time I was amazed that the Harry Potter books came out. And
Oh, was it soon
I
afterwards?
thought to myself, wow, like the deep part of like England and that whole Arthurian, like Arthur type, legends
And
inspire.
Tolkien came out of there. I
Right,
mean,
right, like,
it's
and it's like, oh, you struck us, we strike you back with our legends and with our consciousness, and there's this like, fight between East and West. Anyway, let me get to just a few other people here. Khalid Jang writes, "Elohim bless Pakistan." Well, I got nothing
I'm in.
against that, Khalid. Absolutely. Elohim, may
God should bless
Hashem,
everyone.
may Hashem bless and Pakistan as well. Our old
I'm
friend
in.
Mark Pickles, our good friend and our old friend, says perhaps the sovereignty of the 70 nations depends on the all-centering sovereignty of Israel. The folks today who want diversity and inclusion seem to me not to want diversity at all. They want a borderless world. But as I see it, the best of every nation could only come out of that nation. That's an interesting dichotomy that Mark puts out. That the people want diversity actually want a kind of homogenization,
Homogeneity. No, he's
homogeneity.
absolutely correct. Yeah, no, the diversity language is a hypocritical perspective because it has the illusion that the universal involves reducing everyone to a sort of an atomistic individual, right?
Right.
This is, by the way, this is an old argument between Christianity and Judaism in terms of the abstraction and disembodiment, right? I don't want to go all the way into it, but I think Mark is entirely correct, and this is certainly the Jewish vision of a unified world. It's a unified world in which I call it the ecosystem model, where I don't need the world to be Jews. I need the world to be the righteous nations. And it's through the diversity of the nations that the true richest of humanity will be experienced. There needs to be some element that allows us to move past, like we started with, the conflict that so quickly arises from difference, like amongst the brothers, and move into the tikkun, that sort of fixing and healing and the perfection that allows difference to really become a thriving ecosystem model, right? And that's our dream. And yes, I agree that I do believe that is the role that Am Yisrael is meant to play in the world, because we have an ability to connect with everyone as they are, and yet an obligation to stay as ourselves.
Andrew says blessings from Canton, Texas, and he says Hallelujah B'teka Shofar, which means bless
That's a pretty
God.
chazak. That's a pretty chazak blessing. B'teka shofar, I like that. It's like not just a haluka. It's like
Yeah.
with a ram's horn. Throw it in. Oh, sorry.
Let's see. Now Dawn writes, in the U.S. we get our Hanukkah education from Adam Sandler.
That is actually the most unique Hanukkah spelling I've ever seen. I just want to
That's
note,
right.
with all the spellings I've ever seen,
That's
that
right.
one is
She
new.
spelled it Honika, Hanukkah. We usually
Which is
spell
phonetically correct.
Yeah, more or less. It's not Honika, it's Chanukah.
Yeah, but that's so. If you lack the chet, the Hanukkah, it's not unfair. It's not unfair.
All right, it's fair. In any case, Adam Sandler. I want to tell you, I
He
always
just
thought
got a big
that's
award.
what's that?
He just got some big award, the Mark Twain Award. I just saw this.
Oh, I don't know anything about that, but I do want to say that original Hanukkah song did give people a Jewish boost for many years, and because he really said we are. But what is that song saying? We are different. We are unique. We have our own thing, and
Yeah, don't lump us into Christmas.
right. That was it
No,
was a strong.
I think Adam Sandler is like, he's on the team. He's himself. He does his own thing and whatever. But like, the guy clearly knows who he is.
Well, we could talk more about that. I think that it might be that he didn't choose a lifestyle that perpetuates the Jewish peoplehood per se, which is too bad.
Okay.
But he definitely helped a lot of people feel Jewish, and he gets something for that. That's for sure. My good friend Dan Mastery says that I may have said 20th of Cheshvan when I meant 20th of Kislev. So thank you very much for fixing that up. And Lou says, our faithful producer says, I love Elon Musk and approve of freedom of speech on Twitter, but he and Twitter have to be careful not to allow terrorists and hate speech to dominate the site. Indeed.
It's a challenge. It's definitely
It is
a
a
challenge.
challenge.
No question.
Let's just do one last little bit here. Let's talk about dreams. God has different forms of connecting to mankind and connecting to the people of Israel in the Torah. You know, I said that there was, like, in the Joseph story, there's 3 sets of dreams, but in truth, one could take it back also all the way to the beginning of the Yaakov story, where he also has 2 dreams. He has a dream of the ladder, and then he has a dream of God telling him how to actually be successful in exile, and also calling him back to the land of Israel. So there's those dreams. Then there's the 2 Joseph's dreams in this week's Torah portion, which is about the stars bowing down to him, stars and the moon and the sun, and then the wheat stalks, sheaves, wheat bundles,
Sheaves,
bowing, sheaves bowing down to him, and then finally the dream of the butler and the baker. And I always say that the reason that the baker loses his head while the butler gets back is because you see that you need to drink more liquid and stay away from carbs, and that's just the Torah signaling that to you. Okay, that's a little dark humor there. Yeah. So tell me about dreams, Rav Mike Foyer. Why dreams? Why connect through dreams? Dreams, it's kind of involuntary. Dreams, it's kind of like unclear. It's always going to be. It's always. P.S. By the way, last night I had like a nightmare. Like it's like at like 5:30 in the morning, right before I woke up. I had like a nightmare. Well, it was one of these. I happened to know that it was motivated by the very day that I was facing, because I was in my dream. I was in the Knesset on the way to help with the speech, and then I was lost and I couldn't find my way to the room. And then I looked down and my tie was mistied, and I had a big stain of liquid from my pants to my shirt.
Classic.
And then I heard my name being called, and Yishai Fleischer.
Yishai, you're on. Yishai, you're on.
I couldn't even find where to go in my dream. And then luckily I was like, wait a minute. This is just a dream. I'm out.
This is just an anxiety nightmare.
Right. Exactly.
That's a classic anxiety nightmare, huh? So why dreams? I think you went to exactly where I wanted to start, which is Yaakov's dream of the ladder. I think it's very important to understand that Yaakov's dream of the ladder is not just another incident in his life. It's not just another incident in the Jewish story. It's not just another incident in human consciousness. It is an essential archetype. Right? It is the fact that the commitment of the children of Israel, who are his descendants, is the commitment to the fact that there's always something which connects heaven and earth. And our task as individuals and as a people, and really as humanity, is not just to find, but to give expression to that connection. Now, here's the trick. I spoke about agency before, and I am a deep believer in enhancing agency and commitment to agency and belief in agency. But what? Agency sometimes stands in direct. Ooh, did I lose you?
Yeah, you said agency stands in direct
opposition to emunah.
To faith,
to ability, to faith, to faithfulness to God, to ability to let go and let God. And so therefore it's very important to understand every dream starts the same way. You know how what does every dream share in common?
And what does every dream share in common?
Trick question. Every single one, without fail.
You're
in every
asleep.
Culture, every person, you fall asleep.
Right.
Which means that you do the most basic letting go.
Right.
Which is possible. And that's what opens the door for you to be a vessel that connects heaven and earth.
Interesting.
Right? And by the way, to connect back to our story, that's why Yosef is the one who's able to transform his dreams into a reality that actually sets the stage for redemption. Right? He understands his own dreams. He understands the dreams of the butler and the baker. He understands the dreams of Paro. Why? Because what is it when Paro says, I think it's in next week's parsha, but whatever. When Paro pulls him out and he wants the sort of explanation of his own dream. He says, "I heard you can interpret dreams." What does Joseph say?
Dreams are unto God. Dream
Yeah,
interpretations are
till I
God's.
die.
Right. Oh, without
Till I
that's
die. He
right.
says, "It was not me.
Without
It's
you,
not
right.
me.
Without you,
It's
God
God."
will answer you in peace.
And but then he proceeds to give quite a actually smart answer, and he's savvy even politically, and like, but it begins. He takes his agency, but it begins in till I die. In the same way, every dream
Mhm.
begins with
Facts.
saying, but think about Yaakov, by the way. Yaakov's running away from his mother convinced him to trick his father. His brother wants to kill him, and he's like, "Well, chuck it. I'm just going to sleep." Now, part of that is definitely a stress response. We all know that one. It's like,
Right.
I'm done. But that's an honest statement also. But it's also deeper. He's the first person that the Torah ever tells us goes to sleep. You know that?
Well, I think Adam goes to sleep.
No, Tardema is not sleep.
Right. Tardema is what do you
Tardema
call it?
also happens to Abraham. It's anesthesia, right?
Anesthesia.
God
That's right.
knocks him out.
Right.
God knocks out Adam. God
Right.
knocks out Abraham.
Right.
Yaakov goes to sleep. It's the
Uh-huh.
decision.
Okay.
He could have stayed up all night by the fire, obsessing about what happened and going over in his mind how did he listen to his mother, and his father's going to hate him and his brother's going to kill him. And yeah, sound familiar to you?
Right.
Right? No, he's like, you know what? I'm going back. And that opens up a horizon for him to connect heaven and earth that paves the way for all of the dreams that we see in our parsha. And
Very good.
frankly, for the type of miracles that we see throughout history.
Very good. Okay, I love it. That's a great point. And I actually used that point today. By the way, I was at the Knesset. Things were going very late. Itamar Ben-Gvir is not showing up, and I had like pressure from 3 or 4 different points, and I was just like,
What?
I'm
I'm like feeling the stress just thinking about it.
oh my gosh, like, is he coming? Was it coming? What's the deal? I'm like, right, this, that, and he's sitting in a different part of the building with a huge amount of people smashing down his head, a million pressures. And then at some point, I was just like, I'm just gonna let go. Like, I'm doing my best, and okay,
And then like,
I can't control it.
what are we gonna do?
Right, and whatever. So everybody can just calm down, and the whole thing it's fine. And the minute I let go, everything worked out just fine. And it was very important. It's very important to know how to let go. So I really like that. It's a great piece of advice. A great piece of advice. Let's just give a few people just a last chance to say something. Our own Applebaum says the ladder symbolizes the spiritual level of Bnei Israel in terms of how close or far they are to God. So that's great. And
For sure,
then
there's up and down there.
one of our sponsors, Chaim Davids of prohibitionpickle.co.il says, "Howdy, rabbis." And I say, "Howdy," right back. And I want to tell you
Right back to you, my friend.
That's right. And if you actually go to prohibitionpickle.co.il and type in coupon code Yishai, you will get percentage points off of any order that you make within continental Israel. And of delicious,
including if you want to send gifts of herring to Yishai or myself.
That's right. Gifts of Shabbos prep. It's actually a lot of fun. It's special.
I promise that I will have a deep Shabbos oneg on your behalf.
Will you wait? Slicha, I sneezed. Will you send? See, but you got to give something back, Rav Mike. If you get a prohibition pickle,
you mean if I'm having a good time, so are you. So what am I?
No, no, that's not good enough. Will you be sending?
It was clever though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was clever. But will you be sending a blessing? Because I think that's worth it. I think a person wants a special blessing.
Not only will I daven for you at the Kiddush, I will send you a blessing. I would take a picture, but it's Shabbos Kiddush, so I can't.
That's right. But maybe a picture right before Shabbos. In any case, very special stuff. And by the way, another friend and sponsor of the show, which is Jay Brick, my friend Yitz at jbrick.com, which is Jewish Lego. He is in Israel constructing the world's largest Lego menorah at the Lego store in Tel Aviv. And that's happening. That is really happening right now. That's really cool. So that's jbrick.com. So some really great folks that are part of the show. Rav Mike Foyer, I want to thank you for being part of the show. You also have your spiritual counseling for people who need it. And that's found at ravmike.com or ravmike.co. What are we at? No, ravmike.com and thejewishstory.co. Am I right?
Jewishstory.co. That is correct. And if folks want to join that share, you can send me an email, ravmikefoyer.com. I'm happy to share with you the link for Thursday night. You want a little Hanukkah inspiration.
Wunderbar, wunderbar, and you will be able to get some spiritual. What do we call those Hanukkah donuts? Sufganiyot. You can get some
Sufganiyot.
serious. You know how those little hearts. You know when you like something, there's like these little hearts that pop up on the screen. Do 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 do. Instead, there's little sufganiyot right now. Sufganiyot, and amazing Hanukkah light is coming from Israel. Rev Mike Foyer, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the program today, and I want to thank everybody out there. And wish you guys a Shabbat Shalom and a happy Hanukkah and a lot of strength and a lot of fearlessness and a lot of love. I want to thank Lou for being on the show and helping us produce it. Lou, Ben Bresky, Yocheved Seidman, Moshe Herman, and Tabitha for getting the show out to the world. And again, thanks to you and God bless you.
All right. It's great to be back and blessings to everybody.
All right. Shalom, shalom. God bless you, folks. Steve Eisenberg says, Shabbat shalom lekulam. That means good Sabbath to everybody from Israel. I know it's only Wednesday night, but we're getting ready for Shabbat. We're getting ready for the holiday of lights. Yeah, it's totally okay. God bless you, folks. Thanks again, and shalom.
Shalom, shalom.